So you just finished up your ionic bonding notes, kind of pulling together all the things we've been doing the last week or so with periods, groups, Lewis dot, ions, all that stuff. So this idea of ionic bonding is really summarized here at the end of your notes. We're going to be using all three of these big key points as we work through our practice problems. So a reminder that our metals like to lose electrons and nonmetals like to gain. And each gain or loss helps determine if the element becomes then a positive ion or a negative ion. And one hint we talked about in class, if you're struggling with keeping track of that, is kind of silly, but pimples. Right? So we talked about electrons like pimples. So if you're losing electrons or losing pimples, you become a positive ion. Remember, electrons are that negative charge. So if you're getting rid of negatives, you end up with more positives. And again, that silly way to remember it is, how do you feel when you're losing your pimples? Well, you feel positive, right? And then on the flip side, if you're gaining electrons, you're getting more negative particles, so you become a negative ion. But again, with our silly example, if you're gaining pimples, that's a negative. So if you feel yourself getting stuck, you can just kind of think back to that silly example. Now, because we're going to see two different charges, we know they attract and then transfer their electrons. That's our key word for ionic bonds. And so we'll typically be seeing our bonds happen between metals and nonmetals, because one will lose and one will gain. So they attract together and transfer those electrons. So we've got the directions here one more time. Just like we did in the notes, we're going to make a Lewis dot first, draw arrows showing the transfer, show our ion, so that means the number and the charge, and then finally name that new compound's chemical formula. And we might end up seeing a few that have no reaction, and that's of course going to be if we don't end up with a plus or a minus. We know they can't bond ionically. Or it might be if we have a noble gas, right? Because we know they're already full and they have no interest in gaining or losing. So here we go. This was an example that we did through the notes, so it's there as a reference. I'm going to get 2 and 3 started going for you guys. So first step is going to be to draw in our Lewis dot. So we've got to find these on the periodic table, and remember that we're looking at the group number, which is straight up on the periodic table. Now you should have your paper copy with you. If you don't, you can always go side by side in Notability and have your periodic table there for you. Remember that you're using our periodic table and not just a random one online, because we have some important details on ours. So starting here with lithium, right? Here's our lithium element. So we need the symbol and also the group. So we have lithium. And if we look straight up at the group, lithium has 1 outside electron. So I put that right up top. Our second example, or second element here, is bromine, which I'm going to find over here, already circled. Bromine, straight up, that is group 7. So again, I want to get my electrons drawn in, and it's nice on Notability. You can make different colors just to make the visual helpful, and you can also just make your text a little bigger, or your pen a little bigger. Okay, so I've got my Lewis dot and my group number showing my valence electrons. Now I want to make sure that I put the arrow in here showing the transfer. So when I get a quick look at lithium, I easily see it has 1. I know its 2 options are either to lose or gain. And having just 1, I know its plan is to lose that 1 electron. Now, quick look at bromine over here. With these outer electrons drawn in, I can see where it's missing its electron. So I know lithium is going to transfer its electron right over here to bromine. So the electron's been transferred. Now I've got to figure out what charge each one will have. So that's what goes in my next column. So I restate the two elements I'm working with, lithium and bromine, and I want to show the charge both with the number and the plus or the minus. So if lithium is losing one, again, it's losing one pimple, that's going to make it feel good. 1 plus or +1, either way. And then here bromine is gaining 1. Again, it's getting an extra negative particle, so my charge will be 1 minus. Now to make sure my bond is complete, I have to recognize that these two charges balance or cancel each other out. So I have a +1, I have a -1. Everything is complete here in the bond, and to give it the new compound formula name, I simply merge these together, LIBR. And because there is one of each, that is all I need. But again, as you remember from the notes, we aren't going to get a perfect 1-to-1 every single time. So let's try this example. Magnesium and fluorine. Okay, so magnesium over here. Here's magnesium. Looking at my group number, group 2, so that means 2 outer electrons. Starting at the top, working my way around, and then fluorine over here on this side. Fluorine, same group as bromine, so that is a 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So again, I should be able to do a quick look and see, okay, this one has 2. It's way easier to lose 2 than to get 6. And looking at the fluorine, I can easily get a visual on what this guy wants to do, gain 1. So when I write out their charges, keeping in mind what's happening, I have an Mg and a Br. Magnesium losing 2 pimples, makes it feel good. 2 plus. Oh, I wrote Br, my bad. This is fluorine. Gain 1, just like Br. -1. Okay. So now, again, when I go back to the charges, here I have a 2 plus, here I have a 1 minus. My bond cannot be completed because of an imbalance of charges. So I have to think about, what do I need more of? Do I need more magnesium or do I need more fluorines? And that's where that arrow really comes in handy. So when I put in the arrow showing magnesium transferring to fluorine, my fluorine now is good to go, has what it needs. But I still have this extra electron. So what do I need to find it a home? Do I need another magnesium or do I need another fluorine? I'm going to need some other fluorine to transfer that electron to. So over here in my charges, I know another fluorine is needed, right? So now when I look at my charges, here I have a 2 plus, here now I have 2 1 minuses. So that totals up, and my charges are balanced and ready to be completed. This time when I write it out, I record it as Mg, because I have one of those, F2, because I have 2 of those. It's super important all the time. I see people doing this, fluorine 2 minus, because they want to combine these. But what this means is that the fluorine actually gained 2. And we know that wouldn't work because then it would have 9 total electrons, which doesn't fit. Okay, so make sure you write them individually, and you might have to repeat a second or possibly a third. Okay, so keeping that in mind, you're working through the rest of the problems. Keep a lookout for some additional get starteds if you need help with any of the following, and then crush through a few summary questions. Good work.